Throughout this 31 days, one of the things that I have been doing amongst auditing my life is also suggesting ways that some of you could perhaps choose to audit your own life. As many of you are aware, one of the things that I suggested is that I drink water every day. There are changes to my routine that I want to uphold. Obviously, there is also the financial element that I want to delve into. And I've suggested so far some ways that we can save money. Particularly, perhaps in yesterday's video, I discussed how I know what the areas are that I spend my money on to do with things I enjoy. But what about the everyday things? So what I am going to do today is actually have a look at what I spend in a day, and therefore what that would be in a week and in a month. Now, we're not going to break it down as far as every pump of hand soap, every pump of shampoo, but I'm going to look at what I physically consume in an approximate value to see what that is. So let's have a look. Obviously, there are always going to be exceptions, like I mentioned, discussing a low buy or no buy, where we occasionally have things that crop up that we need. But I want to take a general look at how and what I spend my money on a typical day, on an average day, because I want to audit what I spend my money on and see if there's any manoeuvrability. So I'm looking at the standard day that I live. So for instance, most days I have my morning meditative cup of tea, which is usually, with me being from England, an English breakfast tea. Tea with milk in it of some variety, and I sit and I enjoy that, and I do not let anybody interfere with that first 15 minutes of my day. No answering notifications. It is a time to come awake, think about what my day may be about. And even if it's not meditative in the sense of thinking nothing and trying to empty my mind, it's about getting myself into gear for the morning and for the day. Now, what is the breakdown cost of that? Because I have done a rough approximation to really see what I physically spend in terms of usage in a day. And the average box of Yorkshire tea is about £5 for 210 tea bags, which is actually a breakdown cost of about 3p. Now, I usually have a tiny splash of milk in that, so even if we round it to an approximate figure of 5p, 5p is the first thing that I will spend on a typical day. The next port of call of what I spend in a day is normally something to do with coffee. Now, I like to try and have a morning cup of tea and a glass of water before I have anything else. But then, around about an hour of being awake, I like to have a coffee to really get me going that morning. I like my morning little caffeine boost, and usually that will take 3 different forms, which I may actually cover again at a later point in this 31 days. But I will either go out for coffee, which I try to limit to every other day to at least budget myself a little bit there. And on the days where I do not go for coffee, I will have an espresso pod, which usually is about 40p each. And on the days that I do not use an espresso pod, I use my little filter and some fresh ground coffee like this. I use this. I can put fresh tea or fresh coffee in here and just use it as a little mini portable drip pour over. And usually when I use this, or if I do an espresso, I don't always have it in the house. I sometimes will take it out and enjoy having it perhaps on the front somewhere, because we do live near the coast, and enjoy just looking at the sea as I drink it. So that will equate to an average of, if it's either 40p on my ground coffee, or if I end up going out to a coffee shop where it's a bit more. I worked out that the average amount, based on the fact that some days I do and some days I don't. I will also just add that to do with the coffee, I mix up where I go when I go out for coffee, to also try and be a little bit frugal there. For instance, a Starbucks has just opened in our local town, but I do like to support the independents as well. So sometimes I will go to our little local Japanese coffee shop, which I love. However, it is very expensive in there. And as I'm trying to be frugal, sometimes I will go to places like Costa, like Starbucks, where they have got a points system. Also in the Costa, I'm not sure about the Starbucks yet, they have a reward system for taking your own cup if you want to have it as takeout or just refill it and have it inside. And they also do a very, very good point system where every 8th drink is free, and once a month you actually get a free drink. So there are perks to that as well. So, you know, there's pros and cons to independence and non-independence if you are trying to be frugal. So anyway, all that being said, my coffee usually rounds up to an average of £2. Now this morning I have actually not been shopping yet, otherwise we would normally have things like bananas and apples and kales in the fridge, but I am yet to go shopping this morning. So what I'm going to say at this point in the morning, mid-morning, is I would normally have some kind of green juice or a sparkling water, something a little bit more nutritional, just to give me a little bit more of a healthy kick, to get me up until lunchtime and to also hydrate myself, but something that's a little bit interesting and nutritional, not just plain water. So that is usually, like I just said, a green juice or a sparkling water. Now this differs slightly depending on whether it's a green juice day or a sparkling water day, but you can see on average it averages out at about 50p. Around the time that most people would be perhaps having lunch, really I am just having brunch, and that is because I'm not really a breakfast person. But the green juice that I usually have mid-morning is actually very filling, very nutritional. I usually have almond milk in it, which gives me a bit of protein, gives me a bit of vitality, especially with all the fruit and vegetables that I'm having. So I find that I'm just not that hungry around lunchtime. So I have some kind of little brunch option, which again is usually something quite nutritional, something light, something with protein. If it's not some kind of fruit with protein, it might be actually something with some healthy fats like avocado on toast, avocado on seeded toast might I add, or on sourdough bread, which has obviously got probiotics and things that are very good for your gut, but some kind of healthy light option. And I've worked out that on average it might be more some days, it might be less other days. I estimate that I roughly spend around £1 on this brunch snack. Now in the summer, I am an absolute bugger for a second coffee of the day. Now I do always try to stick to one, but in the summer it tends to be two, because I love my hot coffee in the morning. But in the summer, I kind of miss out on not having an iced coffee. So it tends to be that I do have two in the summer, and the second one is usually an iced coffee, usually from our Nespresso machine. And because the Nespresso pods are not that strong, and I'm obviously used to having a 2-shot coffee in most takeout places, that is what they give you. For instance, when you go to Costa, Starbucks all those kind of chains. Even in independents, it's standard to always give you 2 shots in a coffee. So when you have 1 shot in an espresso, it doesn't feel like enough. So yes, you saw me do that then. I added 2 shots of coffee, 2 shots of espresso in my iced latte, although sometimes I am now having an iced Americano. So that again equates to about 40 pence for an espresso pod. If you do add milk, it's obviously a few pence more, but we will at least round it up to the nearest 5 pence, so let's just say 40 pence. Well, we're here at the afternoon now, but this is where things have to change rhythm a little bit for this video. Because, as many of you are aware, I am attempting to do daily uploads for this August audit of auditing my life, showing how I can maybe improve things, change things for better, and perhaps give you guys some ideas of where you can audit your life. I am on a very tight upload schedule, which usually means filming most of my videos in the morning so I can edit by around lunchtime and do my work and daily activities in the afternoon. So this is where I kind of have to end, but discuss what then happens from here on out. For instance, I always cut off my coffee at about 2 p.m. so that I can sleep easier on an evening. So after I've had my sort of afternoon iced coffee, I then around 4 or 5 o'clock, I am a typical English person in that I have an afternoon tea break or afternoon tea. And that usually does entail another English breakfast tea, having some kind of snack. Now, some days, obviously for health reasons, I have more fruit, but occasionally I will indulge myself in a nice little sweet treat, such as a scone, which, believe it or not, doesn't actually have that much sugar in it, because I make them myself. I'll include some clips from my Patreon where I did do a video about this. I don't really put much sugar in mine. It is just flour and water. I don't even use eggs, so that I can actually share them when I do a batch with some of my friends who don't eat eggs. I would actually consider it quite an innocent afternoon snack, given that it is quite small, it's not got much sugar in it, and there are many different kinds of things and preserves that you can put on it that aren't too bad for you. So I believe in a little bit of everything in moderation. So some days it's fruit, some days it is a homemade scone. Very, very occasionally I might treat myself to a nice pistachio macaroon or a little piece of nougat, which I absolutely love. They're probably my absolute favourite little sweet treats that I have very occasionally. So that's what I have around mid-afternoon. Now I would say that obviously we've already worked out that the tea works out at about 5 pence. Let's just say that on average the snack, the afternoon tea break snack, works out as well at around 50 pence. Then, because we have had an afternoon snack, we don't really get hungry again until around 8 p.m. on an evening. Now, what we have for our evening meal can vary greatly, but we always try to have some veg for fibre obviously, and nutritional vitamins, minerals, and some kind of protein. Some days, obviously because we are budgeting, we will try to have something that fits those parameters but that is also cheap. So for instance, a cheap day might typically be spaghetti with fresh basil, some tomato, some extra virgin olive oil, and we may have a day where we don't have much protein that day. So that day I will have made sure that I had more protein earlier in the day, perhaps by putting more flax seeds and things in my green juice that morning. And then that works out at a cheaper day. But on another day where we perhaps want more protein, for my evening meal, I will cook me and my partner something, because I am the cook in the household. I will make something like sushi or some kind of Vietnamese dish like spring rolls or pho. Never sure whether I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is it pho? I'm not sure. But some kind of Vietnamese or pasta dish or rice. I even do really love paella rice, paella, however you say it. So I will vary greatly in what we have in our evening meals to mix things up a bit. I do absolutely love gnocchi as well. I just love that kind of potatoey feeling, but I will always balance that out and make it sort of I think what they call a low glycemic index, so that it is slow releasing, balancing it with protein and vegetables, but also giving us enough energy to have, you know, got through our day, get through the rest of the day and feel fully fueled up. So on average, I would work out that even though we may have days where we spend more on our evening meals, there are definitely days where we spend less. So I think per head for me and my partner, we spend around £4. So obviously, as this is what I eat in a day, I'm just counting £4 for my evening meal. Unpopular opinion perhaps in minimalist circles, but I am a writer. That is what I do. I am a creative writer, an academic writer, a poet, and writers have something that I once read a book about called the midnight disease. It means that we can do everything that we want to try and keep our brain calm, as I discussed in my evening routine, but sometimes it is when we get most of our creative inspiration late at night, when we are calm and we are relaxed. And that's why sometimes it is important to have that hour of solace doing nothing. Yes, by all means, because I love movies as well. Enjoy a nice film on an evening, enjoy a documentary, enjoy reading a book. But I like to have an hour of doing nothing. But sometimes then that is when my creativity sparks and I sit up writing notes and things, and so I don't end up going to bed until around midnight or slightly after. So from when I've eaten my evening meal at about 8 o'clock, at around 9:30, 10 o'clock, I may feel like I want a little snack again, because don't forget I have missed out on my breakfast. So usually I will have something very light, perhaps a piece of fruit again, something very, very light on the stomach because it is late at night, not too much protein that's going to give me too many dreams, but something light. And I estimate that I would spend around, on average, 50p on that. Now I also have to mention, for those of you that have seen the evening routine, that I do drink quite a bit of tea on an evening. Now because it's getting later on though, I obviously don't want to be getting overstimulated with too much caffeine, because obviously there is still caffeine in a lot of teas, especially English tea or English breakfast tea. So I now try to switch to herbal tea. I personally love vanilla tranquility tea. I am not a fan of chamomile tea. I just do not like the flavour. I like mint tea. I like vanilla tea. I like cranberry tea. And I like hibiscus tea. Those are my 4 favourites that I really stick to. So I'll have them at some point in the evening as well, and it's more of a comfort thing and a hydration thing. Because as I mentioned at the beginning of this audit, August, I don't actually really like the taste of pure water. It's a struggle for me to get it in, and because in this area it is hard water, it doesn't really taste very nice, which is why throughout this audit in August I have been downing just a glass of pure water a day. I do try to do that on the morning as well, so that I at least get 2 glasses of water every day, but the only way that I can make myself do it, so I figure this is better than not at all, is by downing it in one and getting it over with in less than 30 seconds, because quite frankly, in this area, even though I have a water filter on our taps and that it is not dangerous, I've had it tested, it just doesn't taste nice. So this is why I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it today as well. But on average, I do have 2 herbal teas at some point in the evening. Obviously water is free. I think the herbal tea bags are slightly more, at around 10p each. So that equates to about 20p. So let's down today's water intake, and then we will tot all this up for what I would spend on a typical day, week and month. Let's get to the water. So that is our water. You can see it's a little bit cloudy, but if you do leave it to settle on the side for a while, it does all go to clear. It's just because it's really oxygenated at the moment. Though when I hold it up, I do feel a little bit like the scene from Folsom Prison in the Walk the Line movie.
Although I have on occasion got myself busted. I felt tough, you know, like I'd seen a thing or two, you know. Well, that was till a moment ago. 'Cause I gotta tell you, My hat's off to you now, cause I ain't never had to drink this yellow water you got here at Folsom. This song's for your ward. Early one morning while making the round.
Where, you know, he doesn't really want to drink the water. So, heads up to me for drinking the water. Right, are we ready? Let's see if we can beat the record so far. In this series so far, I think the record has been 23 seconds, but my personal best is 18. It always depends on whether I need to take a breath for oxygen, which I do struggle with at this moment in the year because I do have a bit of hay fever. Right, let me get my oxygen. I'm not sure if that was a record, but so far I'm learning the tactic is to take bigger gulps. So I hope I beat my 18-second record before the end of this month. So for those of you wondering what the figures are for my typical spending in a day as a minimalist, it equates to £9.20 a day, which obviously August has 31 days. So in August, in a week, 7 days, it would be £64.40. But in a whole month, again, as I was about to say, August has 31 days. That is £285.20, which for those of you who are from the USA watching, because I know that that is 40% of my audience, I'll work that out for you. £285 into dollars today is 363, can you see? $363.49, or cents is it in America, if we want to be really pernickety. So I don't actually think that's bad. Now the part of me that wants to be really, really frugal thinks, could you get that down a bit more to save a bit more money? But the thing is, and I said this right at the beginning of my channel, that I actually don't class myself as a frugal minimalist, even though I'm doing this frugal minimalism series, because lately I am really attempting to save up, because I would never cut a cost at the expense of my nutrition and my health. And I am a firm believer in physical but also mental health, because we need them. We need our physical and mental health to be able to live a fruitful, positive life. So they are the baseline really of what should be most important in our life, I believe, because you know the sum of what they add up to really is our immunity and our health. And to give yourself the best chance at living a healthy, prosperous life, from my Trekkie friends watching, live long and prosper, for living a life that is full of prosperity in terms of health, I believe that your nutrition is the number one thing. So no, I would not ever attempt to cut that down anymore. I think that is the baseline for living in the UK, what you probably do have to spend as a bare minimum to be living a fruitful, physically fruitful with fruit life. So unless you've got your own farm where you can grow your own fruit and vegetables, I think that's roughly what it's going to look like. And the one area that I know is like a splurge perhaps is my coffee every other morning. But because I work from home and I don't drink alcohol, I may have 2 drinks of alcohol all year. I'm not somebody that believes in saying never, because I believe in temperance, because I do believe in the Taoist way of, to be too extreme about anything, ironically, is not to be temperate. It's being an extreme about saying no to some things. So I like to think occasionally, if it's my birthday, if it's a celebration, I will have a glass of champagne. But I still consider myself a non-drinker. So for me, that coffee out every other day is a chance to be sociable with friends, a chance to get away from the home, a chance to be in society and witness life happening. As a writer, that is especially important to me. It's where I get ideas and witness people. And yeah, so it's a really important part of my life. So I at least try to balance that. So I hope you've all enjoyed this video today. See you all in the next one. Bye.